Happy Family Day to everybody. I hope everyone's enjoying their weekend. I am. It's a beautiful day here in Alberta. Windows open, jackets off. I just love it. Sun's out. It's terrific. Folks, I want to do this video. It's been some time coming. I apologize. Dennis Woodrich, he's been asking for many weeks, waiting for a response. I said, Dennis, I got all these other things. I know it's important for that community and those First Peoples in that community, but it piles up and more messages come together. I know Mark O'Reilly, he shared some stuff. Chris Ford made a comment. I was tagged by lots of people in the latest Globe and Mail news report on the federal government, and they go, are they starting to come around? Excuse me. Are they starting to come around? People are saying, are they looking at Crown land as it is, and they're going to turn it over for the massive housing crisis? No, they're not. No. I'm going to go through a mass amount of terms inside this video. I'm going to nail all of it down for everybody in very simple terms, starting from the inception of Canada all the way through everything up until what we see today and what your filthy, corrupt, and absolutely sadistic government's up to. They've always been up to. They've been working and flexing all First Peoples, all Canadians, all along. More and more take, trick and convince you into giving up everything that is yours, should be yours, and letting it all go, and you will be happy owning nothing, working for the Lord, barren as a peasant on the land. This is for everybody. Doesn't matter what race, religion, creed, color. And for those, of course, the First Peoples who put up the biggest resistance, you will be, as you always have been, through institutionalization, through cultural assassination, through genocide, oppression, you will be made, and assimilation into that system within time. They have many ways of doing it to all Canadians and all First Peoples, but their biggest weapons are mass immigration. The age-old colonial foundation, the formula for transforming domestic populations wherever they are at in any time. And Canada does what Canada's designed to do, as it always has. And Canadians, First Peoples, as time progresses, you get tricked, you get bamboozled, you fall into it. When Canada was first conceived, after a long period of all kinds of other evil in the colonial system, when Canada 1867 was created and implemented on everyone, they created the Constitutional Acts of Canada. It outlined powers to be distributed between what would be provinces, what would be territories, and then a federal governing system. Two division of powers. It's written right in the Constitutional Acts of Canada. You can't miss it. It's in the first 100 and nearly 50 pages of the Constitutional Acts that have nothing to do with anything about any of you except for their powers, their rights, their authorities, and two distinctions. Canada was transformed that day into the Crown lands of Canada under a majesty of the British Empire, divided into this country into federal and provincial crown lands. That's all there are. Federal crown lands, provincial crown lands. And as provinces were incepted and territory boundaries drawn and then redrawn as provinces were constituted in Canada, the government said you will get the rights to the resources in all the provincial crown lands. Anything of the federal crown lands will be up to the federal government to administer, and they will be in charge of transporting said resources. Now, the problem that came is that the thievery of the people's resources, because at that time the government of Canada said, no problem. We've codified a rule that says, even if we give you all the resources, the rights to those resources, the rights to that wealth, we will tax you by any mode, means necessary we like, both federally and provincially. Those crowns, those politicians get to do that against all of you. So we're not too worried about you having the rights to the resources, the wealth. There came a big problem. It was called the First Peoples. This is not Indigenous. This is 1871 leading up to what would be 1876. The treaties of Canada. They had already got their named treaties and were exercising this in Upper and Lower Canada with the First Peoples. They dominated there, forcing them into reserves, and whoever didn't want to comply entered into a forever war with the Canadian government of Upper and Lower Canada. But after 1867 and this blanket set of laws imposed by them on all of you, they said they'll have these rules. It'll be better. Don't worry. Except for they had a problem called the First Peoples, who were in a large number. And they said, okay, we're going to create the Indian Act. We're going to put you in reserves. We're going to make all these promises of all the things to come that we're going to do. We're going to share that wealth with you. Don't worry. Look, taxation by any mode, means necessary. Sign these. We'll create these lands called the numbered treaty lands in conjunction with the named treaty lands. And separately for the Inuit, we'll create an ICC. And we'll work with Russia and USA. We'll make sure they get their fair due, just like Russia and USA imposed on us. We'll make sure that happens. Just go along and get along. Don't worry. Of course, Canadian government never, ever followed suit. Not the Canadian government, not the provincial governments. And as time went on, provincial governments started harvesting wealth. And the federal government didn't want their crown to get bigger than theirs. So they created Aboriginal. They said, we can't honor the treaties. We can't honor all these things. We're going to write a new system where we're going to steal more and take away the resources from all those people. Now, folks, in all this time, even to get the treaties, to get settlers to come to Canada, for the Canadian government and the provincial governments to be allowed this mass colonial immigration, they had to create a deal that released lands unto the governments as long as they released lands unto the First Peoples. They gave them reserves. They said, we'll pay you so much a month. We'll make sure we harvest wealth from the working slaves known as Canadian subjects who work on those lands, and we'll make sure a good portion of that goes back to you. Sign this, be happy. And they did, and that went. Whether by force, scrupulous means, that happened. Fast forward, it wasn't enough. Westminster came in the 30s, provinces started fighting for their people, saying, look, we want to get these resources out of the ground. We want the wealth to our people. We want that to strengthen our people and our regions according to your laws. The federal government begrudgingly signed over, but didn't like that. They didn't like when regions started to grow bigger than the federal crown. So they created Aboriginal. That was the start. It went all the way into the 70s and battles from the 50s as certain provinces started leveraging things like forestry, like coal, like oil, natural gas, ocean spoils on those coastal waters belonging to the regions. They started harvesting massive monetary world trade, and the government, federal, said, no, we need a new term called Aboriginal. We don't want to pay the First Peoples, and we certainly don't want those subjects to outgrow the crown, the control, the autocracy. We want them to work hard, but we want to get wealthier. And so do all our friends. And these laws don't work, so they created Aboriginal. They had constitutional conventions, promised the same old lies the old world order promised to everybody. And in all this time, those crown lands, 90% remained unavailable to all First Peoples and all Canadian subjects. You never got any more than the initial settlement treaties. Not anymore. Now in the 70s, we saw certain provinces move in that power and utilize that power and see that through. We even saw Métis settlements on treaty lands to create this release of at least the provincial crown lands, all done in the name of Aboriginal, in designs that the federal government created outside of what was Canada, all to keep the mass immigration coming to Canada and keep compressing people into more and more of the same amount of lands. Now, a couple provinces got away from that, like I said. So in the 90s, learning what the government learned then, and using the crown formula of colonialism from 9 empires in the world so that these wealthy elite globalists could take advantage of Canada and keep Canadians sequestered, to keep First Peoples sequestered, they came up with Indigenous, a way to get out of the treaties, a way to get around them, inside them, through them. A way to allow elite crown Indians, Métis and Inuit, at least in lands, should be theirs in a settlement that's never happened. But they say to these elite status Indians in crown, they've been given a provincial portion of a crown, they've been given a federal portion of a crown, depending on where their reserves fall, where their agreements fall federally and provincially, and the lands around them, whether they're provincial or federal crown. He said, look, we're going to give you the ability to have corporations buying in to our government systems through the Constitution. We're going to transport resources out of the provincial crown, out of our jurisdiction, and we're going to transport that by owning a portion and giving you a portion, not your people. Not your people. Just like the government doesn't give the Canadian people a portion, they give you the ability to have a job, just like all those First Peoples. Oh, don't worry, we're going to give you preferential, inclusive, through our diversity and equity. We're going to give you equity in employment. Build it for us, maintain it for us, but you don't get the wealth. Only your elite crowns, your chiefs who go along and get along. Only all your Canadian representatives, appointed or elected, will get a piece of that treasure. You will get the bill, the cleanup, the establishment. You'll pay for it. We'll borrow against you. We'll get foreign investment from those actors who are going to take it out at your detriment and your expense. Pennies on the dollar. And it's going to leave the country, and we get a few dollars in our pocket, keeping us elite and wealthy, while you all go broke. That's what Indigenous means. It means circumventing the rule of law. It means keeping First Peoples largely, especially all those who signed the treaties, all those in named numbered treaties, in the smallest land availability possible, 0.2% of Canada, large majority of the real First Peoples. You'll stay in that minority of the land, and all Canadians, you'll stay on less than 9%. In fact, it's much less than that when you take the public lands, the civil society lands that were private at one time, were your ancestors, but they've been chopped up and carved up, bought up, and sold to elite, wealthy elites who now own a vast majority of them. Hardly any of you, the little people, own any of it. You're compressed ultimately into smaller and smaller portions. And the government ensures this with mass immigration. The Jay Treaty was the oldest treaty. USA still holds that sacred today. It's still sacred today. And if anyone doubts this, I really hammered on American treaty chief. I shocked and awed him as the American Indian Utes, who, as I told you, not only hold the records of the Jay Treaty settlements of 1975, their most prestigious hereditary female holds the presidential Richard Nixon Library as president. They came on my feed if people weren't noticing, and any Canadian can go look at that post. They liked and they acknowledged my post as credible, real, and verifiable. The truth that no Canadian, no Treaty Indian, no unceded Indian, no Métis, and no Inuit knows the American reality of staying with the Jay Treaty. Monumental settlements where there is no crown land in the United States of America. We are not even remotely close to the United States of America. UNDRIP, presented to Canada, is a global elite's ability to steal and harvest all the resources out of Canada for literally nothing of any benefit to any First Peoples that I list as unceded Indian. That means Indians at war with the Canadian government. That's nearly 90% of British Columbia. That's a good portion of that, of the Grand River and portions of the St. Lawrence River for all those Canadian First Peoples unceded in Caledonia. That's Ontario. Now the rest of Canada, at least in the West, a mass majority fall in the numbered Treaty Indian lands. Those abused the worst, given the least, treated the worst, besides unceded. Then it's the Métis and absolutely Inuit, as only Alberta Inuit has a mass share of any lands, and those were taken from the Treaty 8 Indians without any say, without any notice. This is what we will impose on you. Now, folks, we could settle out 90% of Canada, just like the Jay Treaty led to in the United States. By 1975, American Indians have more land than all the 40 million Canadians, all the First Peoples that are defined as unceded Indian, Treaty Indian, Métis, and Inuit. Not Indigenous. Do you know what Indigenous is? That's assimilation. That's when your blood quantum has fallen below the Jay Treaty, what is part and parcel of the Canadians' crown and their crown colonials, empires who've existed forever, wish to do to the Canadian First Peoples. Erase you. You don't exist. You are a statistic under the 1% in the other category, inconsequential to policy and legality. Treaties all be damned, all the rest of it. That's the truth. You will become a subject just like the rest of Canadians, and you will join in the 9% of Canada that grows and grows and grows in population, meaning the land becomes more and more and more overinflated, expensive, just like Hong Kong. You will pay what they're paying for square footage. You will learn to live with nothing. You will be the peasant beggar that was all the crown colonials of Europe forever and a day, since the fall of Rome, and even in the Roman Empire times, and we can go through empires long before that. It's a crown colonial, socialist, fascist model that's never going to stop. All the terms are listed in this title. I have American Indians, top notch, American political enterprises from real strength and numbers of political parties that exist today, the GOP, grand old party. And they will testify, at least living remnants of that will testify to what I've been telling people over and over again. And there's no First Peoples to come along and dispute what I'm saying. There's no Canadian politicians to come along and dispute what I'm saying. This is the subjugation of all Canadians and all First Peoples. All land use, all these terms you hear are one size fits all since the start and inception. And they tweak, rework, change, reword, create new and new legal systems to just continue the assimilation, the gradual erosion, genocide if they have to, cultural assassination to get everybody as peasants on the Lord's lands. No different than it's always been in Europe. For a large majority, that's how it works. People rented exorbitant amounts for small portions in massive dense cities. That's what Europe is. Very few live the life of O'Reilly. You see all the farmers doing their protests. Folks, farmers are disappearing at record numbers in Canada, throughout Europe, as they always have been. It's been the government's goal. Doesn't matter. Labour, Liberal, Conservatives, these marches and these truths and realities have been going on longer than any UN agenda or any boogeymans. This is old world order stuff that's always been. It was stopped, at least it was paused and interrupted by the Great War, World War II, that was Crown Colonial War II. The problem was for those Crown Colonials, those 9 crowns, they didn't expect Russia and USA to turn out the way they did. They didn't expect 2 federalisms, contrary to everything that is almost the rest of the world, to come out victorious and on top. And now today we see the erosion of those countries from within, from without, from out there in that narrative that's always been there. This is nothing new. It's old world order stuff. There were no human rights. There were no civil rights before 1945. Now, when you look at Russia, there was a lot. When you look at USA, there was a lot, with a long way to go. But largely the rest of the world, none of that existed. Heck, women's rights didn't exist. For a lot of the colonial gems since then, the British Empire, rape's only been really a new thing since the 80s. Largely for things like United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Pretty tough for a woman to ever claim rape before 1980. That's a fact. And even before that, in the 50s, we were in a time in those crown jewels that, good luck, woman. What are you doing outside the kitchen? And we can go on through all the racism, all the rest of it. We can go through the assignment of equity upon those who were deemed men. If you were in that class, you had that family hierarchy. These are truths people don't want to face. People had it hard before the outcome of World War II. It amazes me that more Albertans don't know. I'm watching Albertans in large swaths today championing, oh, Globe and Mail, oh, look at Danielle Smith, and she stood up to the Liberals on child rights and parental rights and children. Oh yeah, we're really protecting children. Except for she rolled out the age of 17 top and bottom surgeries. She rolled out 15 as the age of permanent blockers to change your sex. I mean, you get on those drugs, you're never going to be the same. That doesn't exist in the United States. That's a huge battle for Republicans. They would be shocked to see an Alberta conservative roll out that kind of law. Yet Canadians clap, Albertans especially, clap like they've won something, even though they've been completely bamboozled and fooled. Just like all Canadians are this fooled that you live on 9% of your country, divided up amongst 40 million people. That includes all the Indian reserves too. They're 0.2%. They're inside that 9%. The rest of Canada is exclusively only the federal and provincial crowns, and they make rules on how they exploit the resources from all Canadians and all First Peoples. How you're going to get less and they're going to get more. Their friends globally get the lion's share. They get cash in their pockets, and you get a fat bill. It's called borrow against the masses. They'll pay for it later on. Ha, ha, ha. Be happy you got a job today if we allow you to have a job. That's how it works. That's called slavery. Slavery. All the terms you're fed are there in this title. Easily searched. Most terms in the later stages do not exist at all in the United States of America. Again, American Indians exist on 133% more land with control over say, meaning self-government, self-determination, their own healthcare systems run by them, their own education run by them, their own social services and policing run by them. They even rent out their lands to people. They lease it out to people and they collect money. They have their own economies. They have their own constitutions, 155 of them. They're way better off than any of the average Canadian subjects, and certainly better off than any of the Canadian First Peoples. Unless, of course, you're in that divine 1% elite where you swore to the master, you love the master, and you were willing to kick down the people in your own race, cultures, ethnicities, religious bases below you and sell you a phony system. They call it DEA today, and they try to spread it out like wildfire, like that's going to make a difference. All of it's wrong, corrupted. And if you don't get that the American citizen has more than 91% of America available to them, that their property prices are vastly less than all of ours for way better land in way better climates. Nowhere near what a Canadian's got to pay for nowhere near the equivalent. American Indians enjoy land like no Canadian first person could ever enjoy. Oh, and sure you can say, oh, but look at the vast stretches of crown land that you can go out. And I have friends who go out and they hunt and they go out on horseback and they enjoy all that and they harvest. But the reality is, it's not yours. It's theirs. You can't go build there. Where's your house? Where's your cabin out in the wilderness? And even if you did build one on some mountainside or you made it and they find it, they'll destroy it, or they'll hunt you down and they'll fine you for it. They'll destroy it. It's not going to happen. Nobody can build any society out in those lands. If the government finds you, they'll destroy it. They'll detain you. You'll be a squatter on their lands, not First Nations lands, not Canadians' lands. None of your resources, theirs. Made massive laws to make sure they're not really your resources. That was just a oops of 1867, an oops of Confederation. That's to get you in. And it's just an oops of the 30s and the Westminster. It's just an oops of everything else. They just keep retweaking it. They come up with new names, oh, don't worry, this sounds beautiful. You should be really afraid when the word sounds great from a crown colonial government. Whenever the word sounds good, that means you better watch out that they've got a knife and they're ready to drive it in the back of your head. That's the reality of what's been transpiring. And anyone who doubts this, all you have to do is go look at the lords and peasants of all the constitutional monarchies ever in the history of Europe and the rest of the world. Go look at the countries today. Unitary states. 100% crown colonial or civil law socialist. But even the dictator that's in power is set up in a crown system. They can call it, well, there's a president and a prime minister. The president has the divine powers of a king or an emperor. Well, that's not really any kind of republic or we the people anything. That's the divinity of an individual. The belief in the purity of a divine human being. Socialist and fascist. That's what it is. Now, people, you can take this as the truth, as it really is. At least at the highest level of the American Indians, I can say without a doubt, the Utes of the United States of America who hold the settlement of 1975, self-determination, self-government, full settlement of the claims. You don't see any Indian wars. You didn't anyway since the 20s. You saw pocket rebellions. You saw some pretty big deals over the years, but largely that ended with Richard Nixon, and we don't hear much from the American Indian anymore today. I wonder why that is. Oh yeah, they've got a mass amount of land for 6.5 million people. So much land, in fact, it's 133% more than every Canadian gets, every first person in Canada gets. It's a tremendous amount more for a heck of a lot less people. And all the rest of the Americans sit on 91% more than, which is 900% more than any Canadian can fathom. It's all around you, but your government says it's not yours. You're not to build a house there. We're never going to release it. We're never going to make a settlement with the First Peoples. And we're certainly never going to give up the idea of subjects. You will pay out your ass to live on our lands. And the lands that we release to you, that tiny, tiny amount, we will keep subdividing you, stacking you on top of each other. The towers will grow taller and taller, and you will spend more exponentially for every square foot with every birth of every child you have. What gains you gain now, you can kiss goodbye. Your children will pay 10 times that amount back to us. Great system, right? What a pyramid scheme. When does the pyramid end? Well, we know in history it's called revolution. But that usually happens after mass disease, famine, and strife for the 99 percentile. And we're going there, but Canadians are going to wait and wait and wait, and First Peoples are going to wait and wait for their divine savior, because divine saviors, human beings, do so well, right? Look at the American War of Independence and what America instituted, inequality of the person. And we can all run the states down. There are a lot of problems with the United States, but equality of the person is not one of them. The ability to get a average job that the average person, two people working at McDonald's, could get together and buy a little parcel of land in the United States and build themselves a home and actually get through it in their lifetime, get through it in insurance rates that stay the same for the life of that mortgage. There's something to be said about that. And if Canadians can't wrap their heads around this, if First Peoples can't wrap their heads around this, that what's going on and what the Crown is doing to you, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, PPC, Bloc ain't changing nothing for the Quebecois, are they? They have vast swaths of Crown land. Same with Ontario. That upper and lower Canada, they have the least amount of private property, Quebec and Ontario. They're the smallest holders of private property with two huge provinces in massive Crown land that they will never release to any of those people because they're good slaves. Yeah. They're good Crown loyalist slaves. They got the biggest Canadian flags. Hey, everybody, look at me. I paid $2,500 for a 1-bedroom in a house with 6 other people I don't know. Look at me. Look at me. This is something we're all aspiring to be, apparently, because the masses think that the system works really great. Works really great. It stopped working for millennials. Never mind X and Z generations. They're done. They're done. Or I should say X, anyone in X trying to go there, and then millennials, and then the Z generation. They're all done, folks. They're done, done, done. The bow is going to break. Trudeau's out, and everybody thinks, well, we'll just elect Pierre Poilievre. He says great things. He's going to change it all. Until he's talking about ending mass immigration, until he's talking about settling with all the First Peoples and releasing mass swaths of Crown land to all Canadians, nothing's ever going to change. Not a damn thing. And if you don't believe it, just go look at the average price of property in the United States. I mean, you could go to coastal cities, you can play that game, go, no, Dave, look at Hollywood, California. And I'll say, take Hollywood, California's best Beverly Hills neighborhood, 90210. Take those mansions and compare them to East Vancouver and tell me what you come up with. Or let's go out to Oshawa, Ontario, second worst. Go compare Beverly Hills to Oshawa, Ontario, and you tell me. You tell me what's equatable. This is what people don't get and they don't understand. It blows me away that Canadians don't see it. It blows me away that in everything everybody chases, they can't take these distinct phrases. They're all listed in this title. It's a powerful video. They're all listed there for you to go grab yourself. Go look at what it means, where it means what, where. Or where it's not even enacted. And that should be the truth for you. Go check out what American properties cost, because I can tell you what I can get in Florida, what I'm looking at later this year, what I can do there and what I can get there would be me way up north. So far from my family and friends, so far from civilization that it wouldn't matter. And then to live there in that harsh environment would cost me so much in food and resources. It's just, it wouldn't work out. I'd be working knuckle to the bone just to pay for existing there. But yet I can go to Florida at a fraction of the cost. Think about that. Just Florida, fraction of the cost. Never see winter again. Lands where I can grow things pretty much all year round. I don't have any of the issues Canadians have. And I certainly won't see the economic impact of radical immigration and radical land availability restrictions like in Canada. It's pathetic. It's cockamamie. And why people don't see it, First People and Canadians together, and why you guys can't form together, it just screams complete and utter institutionalization. You're good little slaves. You're good at being oppressed. You believe in all, like Malcolm X said, you believe in all of your house Negroes, that's what you aspire to be, and that's what you're going to teach your children. And just take the whip, a few more lashings, boy. It's okay. You'll get older, and one day maybe you'll be the house Negro under the master. That's a pathetic truth, a pathetic reality that is the entirety of Canada. And I just, no matter what it takes, there's harsh rules against third-class subjects in trying to get legal rights to work in the United States. That came with USMCA. That was an inception of a radical Democrat that snuck that in there, and he got that done. And it's sad. I mean, it's good for USA, I guess. Really bad for Canadians. But I'm going to work through that process myself and see that through. So God bless everybody. It's a harsh video, harsh truths, massive answers to everything that's happening with the complacent provincial crown, which means all municipalities, and an absolute federal crown. And it won't matter. in those absolute terms I've outlined which party you get. Because until immigration is gone, at least reduced to normal levels, which means none until we get a hold of our situation, and until we say, hey, First Peoples, everything done to you is wrong. This is the 90% of Canada available. Let's iron something out together so you all have the prosperity. And let's release all that to Canadians so that for a lot of generations, if we codify it properly in real constitutional conventions, rules of governance for our governing officials going forward, that protects those rights for all those people in those new lands, then, nothing's going to change and we're screwed. We're screwed. And we ask for what we get because we beg for it, we elect it, we remain heads buried in the sand, and we say, come on, feed me more BS, slap me around, beat me, whip me, kick me. In fact, you haven't kicked me hard enough, so here's all my children. Make sure you kick them 10 times harder than you kicked me. And that's unfortunately the sad reality of Canadians and First Peoples. Like I said, go look at that post. You'll find the Utes are there. They acknowledged it. They acknowledged my post and my truth. And that's an amazing thing. And I'm very proud of that. It's miles for me, and it's miles for me in the work I do going forward as I start going through the process of the United States, because there's many ways to skin a cat, and I'm not so sure that Canadians are up for the challenge anymore. And I'm not going to ever give up, and I'll keep up the messaging, but I'm not going to devote my life and my children to it at their expense and go down with that sinking ship. And I see that, and I'm sorry. But there's other ways, and there's other avenues, and those avenues are waiting for me. They're more than happy to take me in and take me on and hear what I have to say. And I would like to grow that and go that route, then go with a route where I'll just be a little old man facing the reality of subjects on Lord's lands. And I don't want to be that subject. I don't even like the fact that what I've seen in my life, and I'm 46 years old, how I grew up and how I enjoyed a portion of my life with my children that doesn't exist anymore, that will never exist. And I don't even know how my children are ever going to have anything remotely close to what I was able to achieve and have. And that's why this move has to happen. God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your family day. I got my girls here at the Tell Us World of Science. They're watching a show, and I expect a call soon, and I'll pick them up, and that's the rest of my day. If you got the beautiful weather, enjoy it. Like I said, window wide open. It's terrific. I love it. Bye now.